Maximo! Achille, you told me Maximo...
Silence!
That's enough, Achille!
You little fool! I control your kingdom now, as I control the power of the underworld!
Sophia!
Behold, my dark power!
Hi, and welcome to our video review for Maximo for the PlayStation 2. Now, this game, it actually started out as an N64 game, but Capcom, towards the end of the game's development, started to realize that the N64 was fading fast, and it decided to switch its development to the PlayStation 2, but not before it actually considered porting it to the Dreamcast first.
Boom! What? Not afraid of death?
There are worse things than death.
True, true. Things like that.
Maximo is based loosely upon ghouls and ghosts from the Genesis days, if you remember correctly. And in that sense, it's also kind of like an old school game. You can't really blow through this game, and you can't really save at any time like you can in a lot of modern games. And this game will make you realize that in a lot of ways we've been spoiled over the last several years. What makes the game so difficult is its save system. The problem with the save system is that you just can't save anywhere. You have to actually make it to the ends of the levels before you can do that. And not only that, in order to save, you have to collect coins. And these coins aren't easy to come by, and you have to defeat enemies in order to collect the coins. So you just can't simply run through the levels without worrying about attacking enemies and then expect to save at the end. Maximo's health is measured in armor, and basically as you traverse through the different levels, you'll find armor pickups. But each armor pickup just gives you one little segment of health, and it will change Maximo's appearance. He'll gradually get more armor. If you have full armor, he'll actually have a helmet on, although you'll rarely ever have him in that state. The problem is it only takes a few hits and you lose one of your armor. So basically what it amounts to is that you have to really memorize where each enemy is in each level, and you also have to memorize what kind of attacks are required to dispense of those enemies. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like an old school game in that it's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of times where you'll have made it all the way through a section, you can see that save point dead ahead, or the end of the level dead ahead. Next thing you know, you're attacked by an enemy you haven't faced before, and you're dead, and then you have to start all over again. So in a lot of ways, this is the kind of game where maybe old school players who are used to playing on their 16-bit consoles may get a touch of nostalgia from playing this game. But I think a lot of people who just picked up video games might have a few problems with the game and might become frustrated eventually.
General! Your orders were to kill Maximo, so here is your reward.
Another issue with Maximo's gameplay is that there isn't much variety. You have a shield and you have his sword, and while you can upgrade all those and you can get special abilities that will be attached to those, that's pretty much all there is to do throughout the game. There's no mini games, there's no sort of racing levels or anything like that you may have seen in other 3D platformers. So in some ways the gameplay can get repetitive. But like I said, you can attach upgrades to both your shield and your sword that actually give it new abilities, and even though you're performing the same moves or whatever, it does give it some kind of a semblance of variety. But at the same time, you're still using the same commands, you're using the same weapons, so I can see where some people after maybe a few hours of play might think that things are starting to get a bit repetitive. From a visual perspective, it's fairly easy to see that Maximo started on the N64. That's not to say that it looks bad. In fact, it actually looks pretty good. But the environments especially, you can tell they're built of a few polygons, and it looks like they'd be right at home in an N64 game. But they did actually upgrade a lot of things, like the textures obviously look a lot better, and the character models look a lot better. Maximo, for instance, looks great. He has several different incarnations, depending upon how much armor he has attached to his body, and also his attacks for the different power-ups that you get for your sword and your shield look pretty awesome. They use some particle effects to good effect, and some transparencies as well. So there's some graphical panache in the game, but at the same time you can tell that its roots are grounded in a lesser powered console like the N64. On the whole, Maximo looks good, but it doesn't look great. It's definitely not one of the better looking games on the PlayStation 2, but then again, it's not one of the more poor looking games either. You can definitely tell that some of the effects that were pulled off in the game were just kind of like layovers from the N64, as it appears that the things that the N64 did well, this game also does well on the PlayStation 2. For instance, fogging. That was something the N64 did really well, and the volumetric fog in this game looks great. But lighting, which wasn't the N64 strong suit, again isn't the strong suit here. So you can definitely see some layover from its old development cycles, but at the same time I think they've done a good job of updating the graphics for the PlayStation 2.
We cannot defeat Achille without Susan.
Looking for someone?
Stephanie!
Release her!
And hand over the key to my own...
Achille!
Maximo definitely won't appeal to everyone. Fans of older games who may have played a lot of 2D platformers in the past and have had to memorize pattern after pattern and enemy after enemy and is used to having to hunker down and play for an hour or 2 hours or all day without saving, I think they'll appreciate this game and they'll definitely feel that, that oomph of nostalgia. And another cool thing about how hard the game is that when you finally do complete a level, you get that feeling of yes, that feeling of accomplishment. And I don't even know that a lot of players that are new to video games even know that feeling because they haven't really experienced anything like that. They haven't played a game all day that doesn't have any save feature at all, and go and eat lunch and you come back and then you start going at it again. And that's the kind of thing that Maximo provides. You really have to hunker down, you have to memorize the levels, you have to memorize the enemies, and you really have to get each level pegged before you're going to make it through. In fact, there's a lot of times, even there was one point where I just realized that I had not played well enough, so I had to start the entire game over right from the beginning. And I think players that have been playing games for a while will appreciate this, but I think players who are new to the video game scene might find it a little frustrating.